I'm Michelle, and we're going to talk about how I and you can use mindfulness, compassion, and connection to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Is isolation keeping you stuck in unhappiness? Hi, I'm Michelle, and I help parents who want to foster strong relationships with their children and at times find it really hard. When my kids were small, I found myself so overwhelmed and burnt out that not only did I struggle with responding peacefully or playfully, but I got caught in an awful yelling pattern, followed by overwhelming shame because yelling was the last thing that I wanted to do. In each episode, I try to weave in emotionally focused therapy tools as well as what I've learned applying hand in hand parenting and in my own family for over 10 years. So now let's talk about how I and you can use the science of mindfulness and self compassion to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. So, is isolation keeping you stuck in unhappiness? I'll share a story from my own experience. I was at the playground with my three kids. I was pushing my daughter on the swing, my youngest daughter, while my uh, boy and girl twins were playing on the playground. And it was a beautiful day. It was in the morning, so it wasn't too hot yet in Houston, where it can be scorching. It was very pleasant and, it was just, I was so glad to be outside. It's my favorite place to be. And really, it was kind of just like an idyllic scene all around. And in general, I had everything that I had ever wanted. I had a loving husband. I had three beautiful children. I had the career of my dreams. And as I was pushing my daughter, this familiar guilt crept in. Why wasn't I more grateful? Why was I so unhappy? And actually, why was I more depressed than I had ever been in my entire life? Like, if I wasn't going to be happy now, then I guess happiness was out of the cards for me. It wasn't possible. So just then, as I was having these familiar feelings of guilt and, why am I so unhappy? These other two moms come up, one in a minivan and one in an SUV, and they're getting one kid out of the car seat while their other kids, run and start playing on the playground. And they each had a coffee and they were walking up together. And it was really clear that they had planned to meet there and that they, were chatting and just like happy to see each other. And it really hit me. I was alone and I wished that I was there with a friend. I wish I was there with them. I wish I was there with anyone. And my aloneness in that moment hit me like a dark storm cloud rolling in. And the thing is, I was there by myself most days. I was at home by myself most of the day. And I had this thought that I'm trained in emotionally focused therapy, and something that they often talk about is as human beings, we are wired for connection. And they talk a lot about this. So it's kind of like drilled into my brain. This idea that isolation for human beings, it's our kryptonite. And if you think about it, it's really true, right? It's been used as a form of torture. It's used as the most severe consequence in prison. Like isolation isn't good for us. And of course, my isolation wasn't that severe. I had a husband that came home every night. It was also late and he was tired. And I had a mom that I could call, but she was states away and I didn't get to see her very often. Maybe only, every few months or so, which may be more than a lot of other people. And I realized in that moment that I wasn't just a little lonely, that isolation was at least one of the root causes, if not the root cause of my depression, and that I needed more connection in my life, that my isolation was really making me actually sick. And just to kind of give context here, I'm not alone in this. The US Surgeon General in 2023 declared that America's problem with loneliness as an epidemic. And they explained further that loneliness was more than just a bad feeling, that it represents a major public health risk for both individuals and society. And he pointed out that, of course, COVID-19 did not help, and people grew much lonelier. But half of American adults had already reported experiences of loneliness even before COVID-19. And interestingly, in the Harvard School of Education on their website, the ages of people with loneliness are not what you might expect. So, people between 30 and 44, which is the age that I was at the time, are the loneliest group. 29% of people in that age range said that they were frequently or always lonely. And the other ages that kind of like have young kids, like 18 to 29, the rate was 24%. 45 to 64, the rate was 20%. So this loneliness thing, pretty significant. And some of the causes that the Harvard School of Education described were that people self-reported: technology, insufficient time with family, people being overworked, too busy or tired, mental health challenges that harm relationships with others. So not just the mental health challenge, but like that got in the way and became a barrier in relationships, living in our society and it being too individualistic, not having any religious or spiritual life, or so these are all things that people self-reported that contributed to their loneliness. So I just want you to think for yourself. Have you ever felt lonely? Is this something that maybe you don't, it's not something that's a concern for you? If not, awesome. Like celebrate that. Be grateful. Actually, I don't really want to tell you to be grateful because I hate it when people tell me to be grateful. But I'm happy for you. I'm very happy for you. And if that's the case, and if that's not the case for you, if you're similar to me and there's times either now or times in your life in the past where you felt really lonely, I want to offer you 5 steps that you can take towards connection. So, one, turn your light on. And I mean, like in the old days, I guess maybe this still happens, like a taxi. When they are available for someone to get in, the light is on, right? So I want you to think about like when you go to the gym or go to get a coffee or um, go to the grocery store, when we, one, are feeling isolated and lonely, or just in general, sometimes we have our head down and we're kind of like in our own world doing our own thing. So if we consciously turn our light on, we might look up. And I want to challenge you next time you go to the gym, the grocery store, or go to get coffee, I want you to try to look at least one person in the eye and smile at them. It might be, and oftentimes people will smile back at you. So that feels kind of nice, right? But yeah, look at someone, look them in the eye, notice them, and smile at them and notice their eyes. No, see if you can see any signs that might be giving you an idea of how they're doing that day. This doesn't just help us feel less isolated. It helps, it might help that person feel less isolated too, but our world starts to expand and get bigger. So, number 2 is if you have a friend that, maybe you kind of keep on a surface level for the most part, I want to challenge you to share a little bit more. If it's someone that you trust, if it's someone that, Brene Brown talks about putting marbles in the marble jar. So if the jar is empty, you know, you only are going to share about surface level stuff that you don't really care of how they might respond. There's no trust built, right? But maybe the jar is halfway full, but you're just not someone who likes to share very much. So if the jar is halfway full, they're not someone that you've ever experienced them talking about other people or talking down or gossiping, but they're just like a steady friend, then maybe challenge yourself to share a little bit more, something that you feel comfortable with. It's just like slightly, you know, outside of your comfort zone. Not like a huge leap, not your deepest, darkest secret, just like slightly something that just challenge yourself to share a little more, which might help deepen that friendship, which isn't only going to help you, but it's going to help your friend as well. It might give them permission, like, oh, I didn't know that we had that kind of friendship where we actually could talk a little bit more real. Awesome. So it could benefit both of you. Another challenge I'll offer to you is ask someone to coffee. Yes, this can be like feel so awkward and uncomfortable, like asking someone on a date, you know? That is kind of what it feels like to me. And um, I still offer this challenge to you. Some of you might skip this challenge, totally understandable. Some of you, this might be the one that you choose. So maybe you're part of a workout class, maybe a yoga class or gym class. Maybe you are part of, I don't know, a book club or something, and you see someone regularly that you think is interesting. And you're like, I think I would connect with that person. Like things that they've said, they seem like someone I would connect with. Awesome. Ask them to coffee. And it's a win-win. Because even if it doesn't work out and you don't end up going to coffee with them, which is fairly unlikely, um, it's going to feel really good for them to get this invite. So that's a win, right? You've made someone's day, you've made them feel really good. So, best case scenario, you make a connection, you actually do go to coffee. Worst case scenario, you make that person's day and they feel seen. And, you know, given the percentages of loneliness, like they might need a friend as much as you do. The fourth challenge, join a group. It could be any kind of group. It could be a parenting group, a yoga class, a running group, a book club, a walking group, a gardening group. It could be a meditation group. There's probably, I mean, depending on where you live, I am lucky enough to live in an area where there's, probably 10 other kinds of groups that I don't even know exist. If you live in a smaller community, this might be a little bit more challenging, but I still am putting this challenge out to you. And if you can't find a group to join, you could be the one to start the book club, the walking group, the running group. And P.S., if you like a group of two, awesome. If you're like, I don't want to walk in a group of, however many people, I walk and run around these lakes next to my house, and almost every day I see these two women walking together, and their friendship is so touching. Like they spend regular time together, they share together. Like it's very touching. That can be you. And that could be you and your friend. It doesn't have to be a group of, multiple people. It could just be one other person if that's your preference. Also, if you live in a smaller community, or maybe you're like, I like the idea of being in a group, but I cannot bring myself to reach out at this point, start with an online group because they can do, especially if they do like in-person group calls. Like I've been part of Kristen Neff's self-compassion course. It was an awesome group. I think it was like 6, 12, or 8 weeks. I don't remember, but it was an awesome experience. Tara Brock runs online groups. I believe some of them are free. Um, there's parenting groups. There's many different kinds of opportunities for online groups as well. And then possibly the group could be like, how could you consider getting different aspects of your life, like getting yourself support and connection in that area? So thinking about what are the different aspects of me? Okay, I'm a parent. I am a parenting educator. I'm a therapist. I like gardening. I like running. La la la, right? Like, what are your things? Who cares what mine are? What are your things? And think about each area of your life. And then how could you get yourself support or connection in each area. So maybe you do have a group that you love. And if you feel like you don't feel lonely, awesome. Like skip this and, go on with the rest of your day. But if you're like, I am part of this group and I really like it, but I kind of, I still sometimes feel lonely. Well, then think about how you could get light support or connection in other parts of your life. So, it might be if for parenting, it could be a parenting group, it could be online or in person. Hand in Hand has this concept of having a listening partner. So connect with one other parent and you talk about whatever parenting struggles you're having. It could be a one-to-one parenting coach. At work, it could be a mentor. Maybe you reach out to someone who has been, I don't know, important to you in your work or has guided you. And maybe you reach out and you ask them if you can take them to coffee. And maybe you could start a mentoring relationship, or maybe it's just a one off coffee. That's okay too. I have friends that do a lot of networking, like they go to networking groups or they reach out to previous colleagues or college friends. Those can also be ways of getting yourself support and connection in your work life. Um, you could maybe think about how could I support them and what kind of support do I need? And if you have a partner, maybe you could think about how could I strengthen my relationship with my partner? Maybe you could think about ways that you want to spend more time together. Maybe if your relationship feels strained, maybe you want to go and talk to someone together. I would suggest emotionally focused couples therapy if you're not familiar. So it could be like, I wish that I was closer to my partner. Like I have someone in my house, I'd like to be closer to them. Also, maybe it's your hobbies. Maybe you like to garden. You could join a gardening group, or like I mentioned, the running and da da da. So think about the different areas of your life and where you could get connection and or support in those specific areas of your life. So, three takeaways. We are not meant to do life alone as human beings. We need support, we need connection, and we need friendship. And if you are experiencing loneliness, it is real and it may be having a big impact on you. And the blocks and barriers you face to connection can be significant. And with time and effort, you can find your path to connection in one or maybe many areas in your life. So, how does this apply directly to parenting? When we are parenting in isolation, we're much more likely to feel like we're the only ones facing whatever challenges it is that we're facing. We're more likely to feel like failures or feel ashamed because the story we tell ourselves is everyone else has it figured out and everyone else is doing it better than we are. So it must be us, it must be our fault if we can't figure it out. Or we're more likely to feel overwhelmed and hopeless at times because it literally can be too much to manage the emotions and logistics of our own and our child or children's on our own. So those feelings are real and valid. And finding connection is discovering that you are not alone in anything that you're facing. I can say that with certainty because there's 8 billion people on the planet. So there's probably someone else experiencing what you're experiencing, maybe literally in this moment with you. You're not alone, even though at times you can feel alone for sure. And you are really normal in your responses to the struggles that you're facing. Most parents who have similar circumstances are likely struggling in very similar ways with similar thoughts and similar feelings and similar reactions. You're not alone in those experiences. And the antidote to shame is connection. Shame thrives in darkness. We don't tell anyone what's really happening or how we really feel. That's shame, that's darkness. Like I don't want to tell anybody about this. Like I don't want anybody to know. I would hate for anybody to see me when I'm feeling this way or thinking this or doing this. And that tells us that we're flawed, that we're the only ones, and that we're going to be exiled if anyone knew how truly awful we are, right? Like this is shame talking. And seeing and experiencing that we are not alone because we've connected with another parent and we've heard about their struggles and we've heard that they struggle too in similar ways, that shines a light on the shame and that shrinks the shame. And shame can't easily exist in the light of connection and love and support. So, I challenge you to take one action. Maybe it's one of the ones I suggested. Maybe it's something totally different, something that, sparked as you were listening to this. I challenge you to take one action towards increasing your support, your connection, or friendship in one area of your life. And I would suggest choose the lowest hanging fruit, like whatever is easiest for you, whatever is the most accessible. Thank you so much for listening. The light in me sees the light in you. Be well. And before you go, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for private psychotherapy services. I'm talking too fast. Compassionate Heart Mindful Life does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. This is not therapy and should not be used as a substitute for mental health treatment. And if you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thanks again for listening.